Xbox One's disastrous launch is not the reason Xbox failed, even though a lot of people believe that it is. It's missing details. After finding many interviews and articles, we can fully explain the reason why Xbox died and what the future of Xbox is.
Ladies and gentlemen, introducing Xbox One.
We know the story. The executives rolled out to E3 to announce the Xbox One with DRMs, streaming, and TV shows instead of games, and a price tag of $500. That angered loyal fans. A Kinect Xbox with more streaming features than gaming dumped on us while we were told if we couldn't connect to the internet, we should just stay on a 360. Whereas Sony kept it simple. A $400 console with better hardware letting you swap games and play games offline. While one kept it simple and sleek, another tried something so out of left field it never worked. Microsoft is a billion-dollar company. A generational console missing so many marks does not happen just by accident. Missing those marks for 10 plus years does not happen by accident.
Fortunately, we have a product for people who aren't able to get some form of connectivity. It's called Xbox 360.
Right. So stick with 360. That's your message. If you don't, people don't like it.
If you have zero access to the internet, that is an offline device.
To look at the real truth, we need to analyze this article from 2013. In the interview, Xbox product planning boss Alberto Penello talks numerous times about the Windows ecosystem and the idea of multiple devices that could have apps that work across all devices of Microsoft, like the PC, Windows Phone, and Xbox. He states specifically, some competitors don't have the gaming that we have. Some competitors don't have the music and video services that we have. Some don't have the desktop component or the service backend with the cloud that we have. We have all these things that we can bring to bear and bring the right parts of Microsoft together to do this. So I think we're in a unique position to take advantage of that. And adding in another answer, he said, this time, the world that we live in, these types of devices have to talk to each other better. The experiences have to be more consistent. I can't learn a new UI on every device. So you've kind of seen the modern UI in Windows 8, the Windows Phone, and us start to converge. Someone who's familiar with one can use the other. I think that's just a reflection of how we wanted things to be fast. We want things to be instant. We wanted it to look modern. We wanted it to look familiar. Now we can already see how much this Xbox boss is thinking about Windows, talking about Windows, and discussing its implementation into Xbox. And think about the clip we just showed of the CEO saying that Xbox One had to always be online. One clear reason was to avoid piracy, but another hypothetical is that an always online Xbox would work perfectly in a Windows ecosystem. Now I want you to remember that the further we dive into this topic, think about how much Microsoft's applications are talked about versus how much gaming is talked about.
Come alive. We're driven to build a future-proof system that brings together the cloud, smart devices, new content.
Vision series.
We're sitting there listening to it the whole time. And I remember one of our engineers said, like, they're not even talking about any of the games yet. Are they going to talk about games?
And as we know, later in the day, after the Xbox One reveal, PlayStation burst back in their conference. PlayStation capitalized on Xbox's disastrous reveal. Consumers of the 360 could easily switch without any drawbacks, as there was not backwards compatibility on either, and digital libraries were not built up yet. Sony had failed to really penetrate the American market previously, but with the announcement, with a cheaper price point than Xbox and better quality hardware, it really felt inevitable.
In addition to creating an amazing library of new titles on PlayStation 4, we're equally focused on delivering what gamers want most, without imposing restrictions or devaluing their PS4 purchases. For instance, PlayStation 4 won't impose any new restrictions on the use of PS4 gamers.
And will continue to offer the best value on the market. I'm very proud to announce that PlayStation 4 will be available at $399.
So now if we start to ask why. Why was there such a difference between PlayStation preparedness in not just the reveal, but in the years after the PS4 release with the exclusives like God of War and Spider-Man? Jumping back to the interview, this is answered. In the development of the Xbox One, Albert says, it was probably the end of 2010, early 2011 when we really started to get serious, which means they only had 3 years up until public release to make a successful Xbox. Whereas if we look over to Sony, we see that Sony's boss Yoshida instructed Mark Cerny to begin to work on the PlayStation 4 in 2008, 2 to 3 years before the Xbox One's development. This longer cycle of development's success is emphasized by the boss Yoshida saying the PS4 is really designed for consumers and focused on how people want to play games. At the same time, we've really made sure that it's hardware which game developers will enjoy making games on. We want consumers to look at how much fun it is to use this system, not just for playing games, but for finding out about games and sharing the experience with other people. A 2 to 3 year head start really changes the game, and having only 3 years to develop a console on Xbox's part is shocking. Now in contrast, remember when we asked you to remember the point about Microsoft's ecosystem? Albert also stated in this interview that in every generation, we've bought what I've considered, because I've been around since before we launched the first one, the right amount of Microsoft in. That means the first console, there was no Microsoft. We needed to prove it out. With 360, we brought in a little more. We started to use more of the online capabilities. Media Center, the streaming to a Windows PC. This time, the world that we live in, these types of devices, we have to talk to each other better. The experiences have to be more consistent. I can't learn a new UI on every device. So you've kind of seen the modern UI in Windows 8, the Windows Phone, and us start to converge. Someone who's familiar with one can just use the other. I think that's a reflection of how we wanted this to be. We wanted this thing to be fast. We wanted it to be instant. We wanted it to look modern. We wanted it to look familiar. It definitely does have sort of a consistency with Windows 8 with the Windows Phone. You can tell they're all part of the same family. He even emphasizes this by adding, hey, on one hand, we need to provide that game console-like experience where the game developers can get to the core of the operating system, can write games that can go right to the metal, and so on. And at the same time, how do we think about this developer problem between Windows, Surface, Phone? So it starts to be clear here that Xbox started to become a tool of Microsoft and its goals, not a separate entity with a different audience. Rather, Microsoft started to view Xbox, with its successes, as another tool in its ecosystem, to gain more power over you, the consumer, and to gain more money from you, the consumer. And yet this goes further, and the root of this starts to explain Xbox's downfall to a T.
Hi, it's Larry Herb, Xbox Live's Major Nelson. It has been a big week at Xbox. I'm here with Phil Spencer, who's the new head of Xbox. Your new role, what are you going to be doing?
Head of Xbox. My role is really to drive the product vision for what Xbox is and make sure it's gaming first. Obviously, it has great entertainment features for everybody, but my role is to bring everybody together and make sure we're focused on a consistent product vision.
So from here on out, there's an attempt to try and revive Xbox with Phil Spencer. He launched Game Pass, gained big acquisitions of companies like Bethesda and Activision, and lowered the price of the Xbox One by removing Kinect. He did a great cleanup job, and they seem to be really fighting back. A lineup of Halo, Call of Duty, and Skyrim with Game Pass, and they could rock Sony's boat. With the focus seemingly shifting back to gaming, things started to look a bit more positive. Yet in the end, it always felt Xbox lagged behind, even with a CEO willing to make decisions to satisfy fans and encourage people to jump onto the Xbox. So why did things still not work out? Microsoft and Xbox continued their idea of a unified ecosystem, dubbing it the journey to one platform in 2016, talking about a continuous merger of all three devices, utilizing the Windows OS to have apps usable on all devices, interchangeable within all three. In that year, they said they had planned to have apps and games sync and available to play at every device, which in turn would churn more revenue out for the company, developers and middlemen. This started as far back as 2009, part of their larger plan for Xbox and Microsoft, where they had a project known as 3 Screens in the Cloud. The strategy was based on the idea that PCs, phones and TVs should share similar data, apps and services seamlessly through a network connection and server-based cloud storage.
That allows us to all work on the same documents. So now our chief marketing officer can tweak it, our CFO can number crunch it, our president can greenlight it, and our CEO can quit his day job.
The result was hooking you on its ecosystem and attempting to hook your whole family on the ecosystem, with Xbox becoming a general entertainment device, using Windows apps and your Windows phone to type with the Xbox, having their SkyDrop cloud storage store your files, and letting the Xbox stream using the Kinect voice. Commands to switch between Netflix, live sports, social media, and video games for all ages. So there would be a seamless home experience for work, play, and relaxation for the family. It wasn't a device for gamers, it was a device for a family that wanted a digital hub for each individual.
To what Fortune called the console of the future.
Xbox answer. Did you see that?
To what Entertainment Weekly described as one box to rule the living room.
Go to Star Trek Into Darkness.
Microsoft hampered the Xbox One's development completely by switching audiences in an attempt to garner more money through multiple services and products to service Microsoft's bigger aims, leaving any goodwill and trust to erode and lacking a bigger focus on exclusive titles, leaving Phil Spencer to clean up the mess that was made and repair the brand's image in hopes that they could bounce back. But the worst moment was reported by highly reliable journalists Jason Schreier and Dina Bass. They claimed in 2023, following Xbox's acquisition of Activision Blizzard, Microsoft being counters imposed a 30% profit margin target on the division. According to those in the know, this is far above the industry average between 17% and 22%. For example, Sony, which had significantly improved its profit margins after obtaining Bungie, achieved around 16% profit margin for Q1 2025. The demands are almost impossible to make in 1 year, and the only way they would get close is by eroding any long-term plans, by selling exclusives away, and by closing down studios and raising prices, which is what happened, which meant that the future Phil was building towards died completely. Microsoft gave them conditions that were impossible to match, and the result was obvious.
Yeah, Scott, we got a big shakeup over at Microsoft's gaming business. CEO Phil Spencer, he is out. He is a over 30-year...
Now, in my eyes, you can put this puzzle together. As we have previously discussed, Microsoft have always seen Xbox as a tool to use, seeking its usage only for its own gain, with little worries about the consequences for Xbox or their identity. They built a device focused on families that didn't work out, and when Xbox realigned itself to be able to fight back against Sony, they were forced to pull back on any strides it made on Game Pass and exclusives, when unrealistic standards were set on them, whereas Sony dedicated itself solely to the PlayStation, focusing on gaming and how much it could amplify that experience. And now in February 2026, sadly Phil Spencer's left Microsoft, which now only begs the next question. With the Series X and a new CEO, what is Xbox's future like?
He is now going to be replaced by another Microsoft executive. That's president of Core AI, Asha Sharma. She works a lot with developers on artificial intelligence and things like that.
Now a new CEO has taken the helm, who formerly worked within Microsoft's AI department, and she has promised that no soulless AI slop will be used in games, adding that there's no tolerance for bad AI in game development, which is important because that most likely means AI will be used in a certain fashion for development while trying to make games still appealing for consumers, removing associations of slop from AI, giving it a much more professional look. Microsoft's CEO has said that the long-term success of AI hinges on it being used across a broad range of industries, as well as seeing an uptick in the adoption of the developing world. He's been worried about its usefulness, stating, "We will quickly lose even the social permission to take something like energy, which is a scarce resource, and use it to generate these tokens, if these tokens are not improving the health outcomes, education outcomes, public sector efficiency, private sector competitiveness across all sectors, small and large," right? So with that, and with the new CEO, the plan could be to use AI to justify Microsoft's heavy investments and boost its stock price, giving it AI a sense of usage, With a large acquisition of IPs that are very wanted across the world, like Call of Duty, Skyrim, etc., being made with AI, it would highlight a significant push for Microsoft's CEO to say that AI has a more valued use. In my belief now, the culture of raw enjoyable gaming that we once knew in the 2000s, the IP that published gameplay and fun, is now dying as Microsoft was never compatible with it and only used it to benefit the parent company's goals. Whether that be using Xbox as a way to tie in other Windows products and services, like their cloud storage, Windows Phone, tablets like Smart Glass, or your desktop, so they could keep you using only their products and staying there because of ease of use and familiarity. So now its usefulness is on benefiting the AI investments. We may see good games from them, but in the process of making it, the audience may feel uncomfortable, questioning its morality. I think the Xbox that we know is not the same that we grew up in. The problem started long before Xbox One, with the focus on unifying their devices, then starting the Xbox One project late. And after cleaning up the disaster, they gave it no chance to stand back up. I believe games will still be made by Xbox, but I question if consoles will be after the next generation, as we see a reality where they become a game publisher instead. Thank you for taking the time to watch my video. If you'd like some extra tidbits, check the pinned comment. I'm going to write some extra info that I couldn't put in the video and I couldn't put into the script. So feel free to ask me questions there, or if you want to know anything more. Thank you.